Former Marine Daniel Penny has been indicted on at least one count of manslaughter in connection to the death of Manhattan street performer Jordan Neely on a New York subway car, Mediaite reports. Here's Daniel Penny speaking out earlier this week for the first time since Jordan Neely was placed in a chokehold and killed by him.
East Village in Manhattan, so I take the subway multiple times a day. In this instance, I was coming from school. I got out of class around 2:15. And I took I was at J Street Metro Tech, took the Uptown F train. At 2nd Avenue, a man came on, stumbled on, appeared to be on drugs. The doors closed and he ripped his jacket off and threw it at the people sitting down to my left. I was listening to music at the time and he was yelling, so I took my headphones out to hear what he was yelling. And the three main threats that he repeated over and over was, "I'm gonna kill you, I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die." You know, this was a scary situation, and Mr. Neely came on. He was threatening. I'm 6'2", and he was taller than me, so it was. And there's a common misconception that Marines don't get scared. We're actually taught one of our core values is courage, and courage is not the absence of fear, but how you handle fear.
Reporter Briahna said two sources confirmed Penny was indicted yesterday afternoon. Here's what Yanis had to say on Fox News yesterday.
We don't know exactly if the exact charges. We do know that Penny was facing the second-degree manslaughter charge and that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office believed that they had enough evidence, videos, and witness testimony to indict him and to charge him on this second-degree manslaughter charge, which in New York means that they believe that Penny recklessly caused the death of Jordan Neely when he put him in that chokehold on that subway train on May 1st.
Penny reportedly turned himself into the authorities on May 12th after activists called for his arrest. So it is a second-degree manslaughter charge, which, as we heard there, has to do with when you recklessly cause the death of someone and should have known that your actions had a high likelihood of causing their death. Obviously, the fact that he was, that a grand jury brought charges doesn't say anything necessarily. The old line about grand juries would indict a ham sandwich. It is very easy to do that. Where do you see the case going from here?
I mean, it's very difficult. The fact that he's a Marine, I think, really militates against him, given that they are trained not to implement those kinds of holds outside of very specific circumstances. There have been so many people who are trained in either martial arts or who got martial arts training in the context of their service, who came out after Penny killed Neely, explaining how reckless this was, how at the point where it seemed that everybody noted on camera that he had soiled himself, that you should absolutely have released him. And moreover, given that there's been so much testimony and no evidence that Neely made physical contact with anybody or was imminently going to make physical contact with anybody, being on drugs, throwing your jacket on the ground just simply isn't a death sentence. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner for someone in a mental health crisis. So as long as it remains the case that the only physical violence that happened on that train was at the hand of Daniel Penny, I think it's a very strong case that he did, in fact, use a move that is known to have deadly consequences on someone who had not assailed anybody and caused their death. That's a second-degree manslaughter is punishable by up to 25 years in New York. And this is a tragic case because I think it would be much better if we lived in a world where a civilian didn't take a vigilante moves upon himself, end up causing the death of another human being. And now we have one dead person and one person who's likely to spend a large number of years in jail.
I mean, I think it's going to come down to, like you said, the duration of the chokehold, what people were saying, the bystanders, whether his judgment to keep doing that seemed reasonable given what other people were saying and all that. I don't know that. I mean, he said there that he heard and I think other people have confirmed the claim. It's not just that Jordan Neely was having a mental health episode, but that he specifically threatened violence, and he said he was willing to go to jail for it, and also had a history of following through, had been in prison multiple times.
Which, of course, he had no awareness of, and had also no awareness of whether or not he was on drugs, as he claimed at the beginning of that interview. So, I mean, everyone's been debating this on social media for some time, but, the reason people protested in New York, and I think it's a good thing that they did, because otherwise it's not clear that there would have been enough political pressure to actually bring an indictment. So many people in these situations who execute people via vigilante means aren't, in fact, prosecuted because there is no public outcry. But now that we are in the realm of the legal system, all of the kind of armchair quarterbacking falls to the side. There are legal standards for what you're allowed to do and whether or not you're allowed to put your hands on people. And the standard here is, if you're acting recklessly and you're aware of your potentially fatal actions, and instead of stopping, you continue with your reckless acts and somebody dies, you're responsible for that death. So courage in the face of fear, all of the things are great, but I think a jury is going to have to contend with. They're going to be asked, if I were the prosecutor, I would ask them, can you imagine courses of action that Penny could have taken, short of putting Jordan Neely in a chokehold, going from zero to hero, someone who hadn't touched someone, putting them in a chokehold and choking them out to death, not intervene. Should he have intervened? Is there a world where he just stood between Jordan Neely and whoever he was talking to in a allegedly threatening manner? Is there a world where he used his words and talked to him and said, can we de-escalate? What do you need? Can I get you food, etc.? Choices were made to use a move, which I frankly think is not a brave move. The braver move is doing the thing that doesn't put all the risk on the other person and none of the risk on yourself, right? The things I'm describing are potentially risky, but coming up behind someone and choking someone to death is a move that you do when you want to not take on any personal risk and have absolutely no interest in protecting the life of the person that you're putting your hands on.
Again, when someone has, on a train, threatened to kill people, and also, again, I know it was unknown to Daniel Penny, but had a history of following through ultimately.
How is that relevant to Daniel Penny's
his judgment in the moment that this person was a threat to the people around him was accurate.
But no, it wasn't, because Daniel Penny, Jordan Neely
hit someone in the face for a third time.
No, I think that he could have intervened, and he could have done so without murdering another human being.
I think the intervention was appropriate. The question, to my mind, is going to come down to, but did the duration of the chokehold become inappropriate, given the threat no longer existing, and other people pointing out it's now tipping the balance to where this person is in serious trouble and is no longer a danger to the people around him. He's constrained.
Well, a jury of New Yorkers who take trains every day and hear all kinds of people saying all kinds of things but have never personally committed murder are going to comprise a jury of his peers, and they're going to have to weigh in on whether they think a young Marine who's trained in the art of killing, who comes up behind a homeless, mentally ill person and killed him by strangling him to death on a train, was justified in doing so. And so it's just up to the court system at this point.
Right, but he didn't set out to kill him. I mean, that's not up for debate, right?
That's why it's second-degree murder.
Yeah, okay. Well, we will continue to discuss this case, I'm sure, and we'll have more Rising right after this.